Welcome to the Firstwave Biopharma presentation. My name is James Saperstein. I'm the CEO of the company. This is a normal company disclaimer that you may hear some things that are not in the public domain, but more than likely everything will be in the public domain. So who are we and what do we have? We are a gastroenterology company with 3 assets at this point. All of them are in phase 2. The lead is a compound called adrulipase, which is a recombinant enzyme. It's a lipase biological. It competes against porcine-derived products, and it's really utilized for patients with chronic pancreatitis and cystic fibrosis. The second agent is capicerod, which we just licensed in from Sanofi. It is a repurposed 5H24 receptor partial agonist. Sanofi had been studying it for Alzheimer's, but they put it on the shelf because of lack or just change in strategic direction. And they looked at how they were going to repurpose it using artificial intelligence, and they saw that it works well in pediatric ulcerative colitis and gastroparesis. And then the third asset is niclosamide, which we licensed in a couple of years ago. It's a repurposed small molecule. Niclosamide has been around for 50 years as an antiparasitic, has very good anti-inflammatory properties, and we were studying the product for inflammatory bowel disease, more specifically, also ulcerative proctitis, where we have some phase 2 data. We have a very strong IP portfolio, which goes 15 to 20 years, and we would be involved in a multitude of billion-dollar markets. As far as management, I'll just represent myself here. So I've got almost 40 years in the business, 17 years of big pharma, Lilly, Roche, Bristol Myers Squibb. Then I went to Gilead as one of the first commercial people, just as we started expanding and launched the tenofovir, their flagship product at that time globally. Left there, went to run Serono, one of the businesses in Serono in the United States as a general manager, and then went to startups. I went to venture capital. First startup was Tabir Therapeutics, which we eventually sold for $1.7 billion to Allergan. I've done 2 other startups on my own since then, and then joined what was AzurRx and now Firstwave Bio. It's the same company, just different names, back in 2019. So let's talk a little bit about our 3 products and what we have here. So adrulipase is really, as I said before, for EPI, exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. And how does that present? That presents people aren't able to absorb fat very well. They're not able to absorb food very well. They're constantly losing weight. They've got severe bowel issues. The top, 2 really important patient populations that are looked at this on the right side of the slide is chronic pancreatitis, where people suffer from liver disease brought on by alcoholism or drug use, so they have pancreatic cancer. The other indication, which is where we're doing most of our studies, is cystic fibrosis, which is a genetic disease. Most people think of cystic fibrosis purely as a disease of the lungs, where you have to pat down the patient to free up the mucus that accumulates in the lungs. But a good 30 to 40% of these patients also suffer from GI problems as well. So this is a fairly large market. The main competitor is Creon, made by AbbVie. But these are all 4 of these listed here, all what I basically can describe as crushed up pig pancreases. So they go to pork slaughterhouses, and they take the pancreas, they grind them up because they have very similar enzymes to what humans have for digestive tracts, and they put them into a powder form. And it's got a very strong purification process. So that's why there aren't that many on the market, but they're all very similar. And Creon is certainly the market leader, selling $1.25 billion a year. So it's a very active market. Now, what's the difference between us and these other 4? And these other 4 we call porcine-derived enzyme replacement therapy, or PERTs. Ours is made from recombinant yeast. It's humanized. It's a synthetic. We know we don't have any fibrosing issues like the other ones do. It's very safe, well tolerated. There aren't any animal allergies. In essence, our bodies react to any kind of foreign matter that comes into our bodies. So animal-derived regimens are no different than that, but we don't experience the same. What's important here is really from a compliance perspective. I should have said I'm a pharmacist. That was my undergraduate degree. So compliance to me and all pharmacists and physicians is very important. These poor patients are taking with Creon anywhere from 25 to 40 pills per day. Why? Because they have to take them with their meals, with their snacks, and the measurements of how much enzyme is in the capsules is not very exact, because you're crushing it up and put it into powder form. And more importantly, you start developing resistance to these porcine products. So yeah, they start low, 10, 12, 14 pills, but eventually they're up to 25 to 40 pills per day. For us, we're confident. We just had a formulation study called SPAN. We're comfortable that we can dose at 5 to 8 capsules a day. So what are we doing with adrelipase? We did this study called SPAN, it was a formulation study. We have this new enteric microgranule that we've developed. We're expecting a full data readout by the end of the year. We're still, kind of looking at the good, bad, and the ugly of the data. At this point, we believe that we have some issues with one of our investigators, so we have to talk to the FDA to see what data they're going to allow and what data they're not going to allow. But it's clear that the drug works. It's just a question of what will the FDA say? They throw out this data. Do we have to go back and repeat the study? Which, quite frankly, I think that's probably what's going to have to happen. So let's talk with capicerod. About capicerod, as I said, it was in-licensed by Sanofi earlier, actually last month. This drug has been seen by over 600 patients. It seems to be very safe and well tolerated. And as I said, Sanofi did some AI research and suggested it is a very unique mechanism of action in the GI space, specifically pediatric ulcerative colitis. We're studying niclosamide for ulcerative colitis, but not pediatric ulcerative colitis. So there's a nice match there. Also gastroparesis, which occurs in a lot of diabetic patients, especially female diabetic patients. It's a huge market, probably about 7 million patients a year. And then constipation, they think it could work there. Constipation is a very large market with a lot of players, and we're probably going to focus mostly on these first two indications. What's nice about this deal for us is that Sanofi retained the right of first refusal. So this is important, meaning that if we start to see any utilization or success in the clinical trials, Sanofi wants it back. So it's being de-risked at this point. So we're pretty happy to be involved with such a large, important company such as Sanofi and their support. Niclosamide, as I said, we're studying for ulcerative colitis, also Crohn's disease. You can see the market sizes are fairly large. Right now, we're not looking to treat moderate to severe disease. There are other agents, mostly injectables, that are used there. But we're looking more for mild to moderate diseases where you're using something like 5-ASA, both either orally or rectally. We did have a study, which is why we licensed the product in, that showed that people fall into clinical remission, very often oral 5-SA and rectal 5-SA. And we had a head-to-head study with these drugs to show that niclosamide performed better in terms of minimizing remission. So, as I said, this drug's been around for 50 years, very clean safety history. It's a perfect drug for gastrointestinal use because it has very low bioavailability and with minimal systemic exposures. We're looking at this specifically for a non-inflammatory option. And as I said earlier, when you look at the phase 1b study, we had clinical remission efficacy of 59%, which compares very favorably to the steroids, which budesonide showed 38 to 44% remission. rate. So, we have a higher remission rate. The IP portfolios brings us through 2041. We also filed for another indication called pouchitis, which we're excited about. So we've got these 3 assets moving forward. As I said, they're all phase 2 ready. Adrulipase, we're going to wait to talk to the FDA to find out, what they want us to do. Will they let us go into phase 3, or will they let us, or just have us repeat one of the studies in phase 2, which is unfortunately what I think they're going to ask us to do. But we do have another study that we've conducted in combination therapy with PERTs, and that is people who are taking the PERTs but are failing. Basically, they have resistance issues. They're not hitting their clinical endpoints. We did an international study where we added Adrulipase to these patients' regimens, and the patients did much, much better. So worst case scenario, we absolutely have something that we can file for with the FDA for combination therapy, but certainly we want to get monotherapy done as well. So it's just going to take us a little longer. As I said, with Capicerod, we're ready to go into phase 2 for pediatric ulcerative colitis and gastroparesis. We're working on that protocol right now. And then with niclosamide, we do have some data. We released some data, top-line data, and ulcerative colitis proctitis. However, that data is not useful for FDA, so we're going to have to go back and redo the study. And then we also have an active IND that we open for immune checkpoint inhibitor colitis. And that's our company. Happy to meet any of you at the ROTH conference and answer any questions you might have. And I'm looking forward to continuing to present our program. Thank you.